Please do not be alarmed. We are about to engage the nozzle. Please do not move while the nozzle is engaging. Moving will disrupt calibration of the nozzle. Please wait while we calibrate the nozzle. Please do not look away from the nozzle.
The Invisible Hand of Fate is the fourth episode of Season 3. It first aired on June 15, 2008, and was written by Jackson Publick. In it, Billy Quizboy suddenly remembers his past, and the episode is one big flashback telling the story of a young Billy and his Quizboy days with Pete, then meeting up with Brock and Hunter, who have him work with them to spy on Professor Phantomos, who will go on to become Phantom Limb. This episode features an OSI theme song that parodies the G.I. Joe theme song. To further cement the parallels between the OSI and G.I. Joe, we get characters such as Shore Leave, who parody the naming constructs of the G.I. Joe characters, and the battle cry, OSI! Which frankly is a better battle cry than G.I. Joe's battle cry of Yo Joe. It's stated in the art book that Phantom Limb's appearance in this episode is modeled after Hans Gruber, Alan Rickman's character from Die Hard. So there's this little moment with Professor Impossible's name getting scraped off the door. The hot gossip running around the internet was that they couldn't get Stephen Colbert to reprise his role as Professor Impossible, with his agent stating, "Stephen has neither the time nor the interest in participating in your project." And so people thought that this moment was a subtle dig. However, there's a deleted scene on the DVD explaining why his name was being scraped off the door.
I just wanted to say goodbye, Hamilton, and I suppose congratulations on getting the department chair.
Well, thank you, Richard. I just wish it had been any other way than this. To think it was one of my students who exposed you to the deans. I'm mortified.
No, it's all for the best. Sally and I will be able to court openly now, and well, I was going to leave next semester anyway. This way I'll be able to focus on my work, and I can personally supervise construction on Impossible Plaza.
That's the old impossible spirit.
Say, is that where that's gotten to? Hullabaloo, but the government would have raised some brouhaha if I had misplaced this.
Oh, are you taking that with?
I typically don't point out background characters, but it seems pretty intentional that Steve Summers walks through the background of the OSI headquarters. He was last seen in Season 1's Home Insecurity. Also at OSI headquarters, there's a small interaction with this guy who was either Race Bannon or a Race Bannon stand-in, as it sounds like Colonel Gathers calls him Red, but it's quiet and kinda hard to tell. Race Bannon was last seen after his death in Season 1's Ice Station Impossible. The scene in Phantom Limb, or Professor Phantomos' office, is loaded with callbacks, starting out with Professor Impossible's name getting scraped off the door, and then a quick interaction with Dr. Girlfriend just as she's leaving his office. Next, Phantom Limb says of Billy's hand,
"And this ingenious contraption you've built, based on a Mike Sorayama design, is it not? He was a student of mine, you know."
Mike Sorayama was the roboticist from the Season 1 episode Past Tense who kidnapped Dr. Venture, Baron Underbite, Brock Sampson, and Pete White for revenge. This painting of Phantom Limbs is seen being burned by the Monarch in the beginning of Home is Where the Hate Is. Hunter Gathers, dressed as a cheerleader in this scene, is reference to the fact that he secretly desires to be a woman and almost always dresses as a woman when he and Brock go undercover. I think that Jackson and Doc thought this was more obvious than it was, or maybe I'm just dense, but if you've never realized it before, this is a young Sergeant Hatred. Sure, it sounds like him, but in a show where there's two guys doing the majority of the voices, that's kind of a hard way to tell characters apart. In the credits, he's listed as Sergeant Hain, which is French for hatred. I've never understood why everyone in Billy's class is suffering from some sort of deformity. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Let me know in the comments. I've just never understood the joke. This episode is also famous for being the only Venture Brothers related thing to make my mom laugh. The nozzle. I didn't make a habit of watching the Venture Brothers with my mom, but she happened to be in the room while I watched this episode once, and she actually chuckled at the nozzle. The one and only time. I absolutely love this episode because I love all that deep, deep lore. I mean, when I was kind of daydreaming about starting this channel, my first thought was calling myself the Venture Brothers historian, and only talking about how each episode shapes the overall lore of the show. Episodes like this are goddamn miracles because they manage to tell an entertaining story while also filling out so much of the universe that the show is set in. Not only do we get Billy's backstory and Phantom Lim's story, but we also bridge the gap between Myra and Brock as the Venture bodyguards. And Billy Quizboy is great. I just mentioned in my last video that I love characters who are game, and I mentioned Hank, Orpheus, and Hatred, but totally forgot to mention Billy. That dude is super game. I love this episode, and I love the Venture Brothers. As always, thank you for watching, and go Team Venture. Tune in next week for the Buddy System. If you dug this video, share it with a friend, and if there was some huge glaring thing that I missed in this video, follow me on Instagram at Ventureverse Guide to see these videos a week early and offer your input before I upload the final product.